Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here, and today we're going to take a look at a small game. It's not in a small box, but it's in a small single PDF. And this game was provided to me, a link was provided to me by Amanda P., the game's author and creator, and I'll post a link to the game in the description. But the game that we're looking at today is Pilgrimage of the Sun Guard. Now, Pilgrimage of the Sun Guard is a journaling kind of solo RPG prompt creative writing style game. It is almost 100% a journaling experience and not so much of a game. So if you're looking for more of a game, more of a dungeon crawl, more of a crunchy adventure game, this may not be the game for you. But if you are looking for something to exercise your imagination, something where you can kind of dive in and write a little story about a character going on a quest, then Pilgrimage of the Sun Guard might be something that you want to take a look at. I played it this morning and I had quite a bit of fun with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of walk through my adventure and my character as we flip through the book, and then you can get a good idea if this is something that you want to spend your money and time on. It's not very expensive, and I think there are also some community copies available in the link that I am going to provide. The game kind of reminds me of almost like a journaling version of Call to Adventure. It's a game where you're kind of crafting a character as you are playing through this little story. So this says, I do like this little inspired and influenced by section, and she mentions 1,000-Year-Old Vampire by Tim Hutchings, which is a game I want to check out, and I'm going to do so soon. Dark Souls by From Software, serendipitous connection there. If by Tam H. Cairn by Yokai Gal. The Matter of Britain, as interpreted by Simon Armitage. Cretan de Troyes, Sir James Knowles and Howard Pyle. Harry C. Pitts' Beautiful Art. The Oregon Trail by Don Rosich and Bill Heineman and Paul Dillenberger. And Procedures for the Path Ahead by Seedling Games. All right, so Pilgrimage of the Sun Guard by Amanda P. We start with our table of contents here and a brief introduction. I do want to read this because it's pretty well written. Upon a great mesa, a crumbling keep emblazoned with fading symbols of a many-rayed sun, the spinnerets were once blazing gold, a proud embodiment of a great order, now fallen into days of lesser influence. The halls once echoed with the laughter of men at arms, the declarations of solar scholars, the warmth of many hearths that now sit bereft of heat and tinder. The empire, before it eroded like a slowly aging ruin, was full of such orderly halls, and the stories of the realm echoed, while their warriors and scholars great feats. You are one of the last vouchsafed members of a great order, though you have only known it in its later days, the empire's chaotic dissolution, a distant memory from your childhood. A strange messenger has arrived, calling the Sun Guard to ride the ancient roads, and you are the only one fit enough to follow the quest wherever it may lead. Okay, then you get a really short example of play. So if you're kind of unfamiliar with journaling games, you can kind of get the gist, get what's going on here. And then we get right into the how to play section. And this kind of explains the rules about how to create a character, what you are going to be doing, your various resources, which are might, honor, guile, and time. Those are stats and resources that you're going to be spending while you are going on this quest to reach your final destination. You are also going to be earning deeds, and deeds are kind of like what you are going to declare at the end of the game as the great things that you did. And then to start, it goes over here in the cycle of play. So this is how you basically play the game. These are the basic rules. You turn to a location. You spend time to get to that location. You roll 2d6. You encounter a prompt, and then you write a little bit about what your character encountered in that location. You do that twice per location, and then you keep moving on. And that's pretty much the entire game. And you will be able to spend and gain those resources as you go. If you run out of those resources, then you have to do something where you have to break your code to get more, and it kind of adds a complication into the game. So the first thing you do here is you make a character for character creation. You're going to pick a person who believes their code and their honor. This is their life. Choose a background below or create your own. Choose 2 traits from the background. So the character I made was called Astrid Proffer, the Valiant. The background is he is a romantic, and his code is to experience life's banquet through poetic acts of valor. My traits were passionate and worldly, and my cherished item was a loved one's token, and I have crossed out because I gave it away actually, and we'll go over that, but I have my father's compass. And then you roll 2d6 to determine some of your starting stats. So I had 2 might, 2 guile, and 3 honor. I did end up gaining an honor at one point. And then you start with 6 time. And then you also write on, you have some sparks for your character, like what is spurring him or her on to adventure. And so I wrote here, I joined the Sun Guard looking for camaraderie and community. After leaving my home behind, I needed a new place to belong. I look like a rough-hewn sculpture, like God forgot to finish me, pulled from the kiln too soon. I am agile, swift of feet, always on the run from something. Myself? I am looking for rest, tired of running. And then from here, I said, as we begin this quest, what was on my mind? And I wrote, as I leave on my quest, only one thing is on my mind. I hope it is my last. So after you have created your character, you're going to go, you can roll for your names. You can roll a couple descriptors if you want to describe how your character looks. And then you come to the section of the departure. And the departure gives you 2 kind of omens, 2 things to look out for. And the omens I had were forgiveness, repentance, penance, and tenderness, a look. And if you are able to incorporate those signs into a prompt, then you can encounter that prompt without spending a resource. So it's kind of like you have stumbled upon these things that have been prophesied about your quest. So I really like that aspect. It does kind of give you some direction in how you want to respond to the different prompts. So after you've departed and you've gotten your prophecies, then you start on your quest. And we start the quest in crossing the desert. And this is that the desert lies before you, and across the edges of your memory, the wind, sand, and heat consuming your thoughts. You remember your last crossing, the grit and danger, and steel yourself. Mark 1 time, so you would mark a time, and then you roll a 2d6 to figure out the prompt and what you have encountered. And so in my desert crossing, the first thing I wrote was 11. And this is circling above you. A great hawk soars high on thermal winds, emanating from the hot sand below. You see it dive aggressively and then emerge bearing a snake. When have you been ruthless? Could you be as decisive and aggressive in a time of great need? Regain 1 resource. Okay, so I wrote that in the desert, I remember a time while on a military mission, I denied captive prisoners food and water. Yes, I was following orders, but ultimately I am still responsible for their deaths. I still remember his eyes. And then my second prompt was number 3. And that said, on the road, you see a broken down caravan wagon with a merchant crying out in exasperation as a crushed wooden wheel. The caravan leader begs your assistance. Are you willing to assist these strangers? If so, how? Spend a resource and gain a deed. So I wrote, I came across a browbeaten merchant, his wagon broken down on the dry sandy road. I stopped to share water. His eyes remind me of my father's eyes. Can I ever be forgiven? And so for that deed, I wrote that I had helped a merchant. So after you've encountered the 2 encounters in the desert, you're going to move on to the next location, under the shadowy pines, and you're going to do the same thing. So under the shadowy pines, I encountered number 6 here, and that is twinkling sounds at twilight. A ring of flowers where giggling voices encourage you to lighten your burdens. How do you appease the small fey ones? Do you hold to your code? Spend a resource, spend 2 if you dance, and gain a deed. So I wrote, Exhausted from the time in the desert, I take solace in the cool grass of the forest meadow. I find joy in the brief rest for merely a moment before once again being haunted by his eyes, and this time also his voice. So I decided not to dance. I just spent some time because I rested in this meadow. And then I rolled number 5, which was the trees stand proud at the throne of the Stag King. His antlers reach the edges of your vision, filled with flowers and stars. What act will you perform to appease his need for tribute? Spend 2 resources, gain a deed, immediately turn to the next location, pondering how the trees made a new path before you to the valley. So if you wrote that one, if you rolled up that one as your first encounter, you wouldn't have to have 2 encounters in the shadowy pines. But I wrote, the old Stag King stares into my eyes, lowers his head, presenting his antlers like hooks on which to hang my possessions. I hang my father's compass on one protruding point. He can no longer guide me. And so for that one, for the 2 deeds I gained in the shadowy pines, I wrote the pleasure of rest and giving a freeing gift, kind of like letting loose of a burden of my father's old compass. So then we move to the river valley. And the river valley says, rushing water over stones and through the reeds, creeks join to great rivers flowing down the frost cliffs beyond. Blooms surround you in the great river valley. Mark a time and roll 2d6. Okay, so same thing. So what did I encounter in the river valley? I encountered number 8. You reach a humble shrine with an iron-gated graveyard at nightfall. You hear a menacing growl and see glowing eyes watching you questioningly. How do you pacify the guardian to find solace and safety? Spend a resource, gain a deed. So I wrote, an old shrine, dilapidated ruins, a graveyard, red eyes, snarling jaws, drool dripping. I look into the beast's eyes with calmness. I speak peace. I sit, hands stretched. The beast is calm, lays down, head on my knee. We both sleep. And for my deed for that one, I wrote that I befriended the beast. And then my second encounter in the river valley was mighty trumpets, colorful pavilions, a tournament of noble knights from all orders and corners. The Sun Guard has no representative here to defend its honor in the lists. Do you deign to prove your mettle? Spend a resource. So I wrote, at dawn I am startled awake out of sleep by the din of blaring horns. The beast is gone. There's an indentation in the grass where she was. The horns announce the arrival of a champion looking for contest. I announce my presence. We joust. I am unhorsed, beaten, but honored by the victorious knight. And here I wrote that for my deed here that I was defeated with dignity. So then we're going to move on to, this is the last of the major locations, and that is ascending the frost cliffs. The late autumnal wind shrieks through your bones as you begin your climb, with foreboding clouds threatening snow to cover the trail in the coming hours. Mark 1 time, and then roll 2d6. You do this twice again. So what did I encounter while ascending the frost cliffs? Number 9, there is a figure on the ice floes that you see in brief reflections, a weirdling one of power. A bargain is offered in exchange of power for time. What do you give up in exchange for more time with fair weather? Spend 1 resource, gain a time, gain a deed. So I wrote, a weirdling one asks me a riddle. If I'm able to solve it, he will grant me time. It is a trick. I answer, he gives me time, but saps my mind of memories. Have I gained time or merely forgotten? And then I went to number 11, which was rough hewn is the mountain hermit's humble home, where he offers you shelter, asking only for recent news of the road. What story do you share with him? Gain 1 resource. The warmth of fire and shelter, warm bread and broth. I tell the tournament host of my recent defeat at the hands of the noble knight. He laughs. I join him. So after we've ascended the frost cliffs, we come to our final destination, where we are ascending these endless stairs that will go up to the god of the Sun Guard. And this says, up and up, carved into the mountain face, thousands and thousands of stairs going around the mountain to long abandoned hollow halls of the Sun Guard. At the bottom of the steps, a warrior's encampment of the cruel, dread arbiters of will, a militant order of a grim renown. And here you only roll a d6. So I rolled up number 3. And that says, sneaking along the shadows, your steps are dogged by a strange creature that dwells at the corners of your vision. An opportunistic phantasm, a hallucination. It whispers doubts into your left ear. How do you ward your spirit? Spend a resource, gain a deed. A spirit haunts me. No, not an apparition. It is the weirdling one from the frozen cliffs. He has come to return my memories. They are haunted, he says. I know. In exchange, I give him strength so that he may return to his frozen home. I let him keep my memories. I don't want them either. So we've made it to the top of the stairs, and here we declare our deeds. The shrine of the Sun Guard stands proudly at the top of the mountain, surveying the lands the order once held guardianship over. Years, wars, and opportunistic thievery have damaged the Great Hall. Stained glass and timbers stand resolute but broken in many places. Some of the upper chambers have collapsed where warriors once prayed for guidance and restoration. So you read through this, and then you are prompted to declare your deeds out loud. And then here you kind of want to write the conclusion of your character's journey. What have you learned? What have you given up? What has your character gained in doing this quest? And it does remind you at the end, it says, this game is meant to be about hope and learning. Keep that in mind. Feel free to rewind, rework the fiction as it suits you. This here goes over the rules for if you run out of resources, how you can corrupt your code to continue on. And then you also get a couple alternate rules to use and a couple ways to generate your own writing prompts if you want to add a little more variety to the game. So overall, I had fun. This is a nice little exercise. I think these kind of journaling games, I think, are good exercises just to start the day with a cup of coffee. And you can just kind of get your mind going. It's good for creative writing. It's good for if you are fleshing out like a character, I can now take this character and kind of import the background, import the memories into like an RPG. It's a way to kind of build a character, build a world, and you can do different things with it. You can also just keep a journal. I mean, you could keep a daily journal of your pilgrimage, the pilgrimage of the Sun Guard journal, and you could write in it every day and develop certain characters. So yeah, it's fun. I like these kinds of games. Sometimes I wish they were a little more game rather than just active creative writing, a creative writing exercise. But it is sometimes nice to just pick up something that is simple and go through these motions and exercise your brain, exercise your imagination, because that's something that we don't do a lot of as adults. So, all right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed taking this look at Pilgrimage of the Sun Guard by Amanda P. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.